The Zacks Rank, value, momentum, growth, and income all factor into Zacks Rank buys.
Who says there's not growth and income in restaurant stocks? Certainly not our growth and income strategist, Todd Bunton. He's here to show us that there is, at least in one company, Darden Restaurants.
Yeah, DRI is the ticker symbol. People probably know them best for their Olive Garden brand.
Right.
They used to have the Red Lobster brand as well. They sold that in 2014. But they also have Longhorn Steakhouse. That's their other big brand now. So between Olive Garden and Longhorn Steakhouse, that makes up about 86% of their total restaurants. They have about 1,500 restaurants across almost exclusively in the U.S. But eight brands total. But Olive Garden and Longhorn Steakhouse are the big drivers here, but the company's undergone a bit of a transformation. So Starboard Value, an activist hedge fund, gained all the board seats and replaced them in the fall of last year. And management's identified areas to cut costs and try to reinvigorate sales. And so far it's working. The company delivered a very solid beat and raise back on September 22nd. That was driven in large part by solid same-store sales growth, 3.4% across the board. And that was driven by 2.7% growth in Olive Garden and 4.4% growth at Longhorn. A lot of that obviously driven by an improving labor market in the U.S. and lower gas prices. The restaurant space in general has been improving, and that's no different there. So,
not to mention the fact that statistics do show people eating out more than going to the grocery store.
That's right.
Lately.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just more disposable income in their pockets, right? Yeah. And they're feeling a little bit better about the labor market, the unemployment rates declining, and then those pump prices keep going down, and that's more money in Americans' pockets, and they're spending it. They're spending it on stuff like dining out. So not only is Darden delivering same-store sales growth, though, they're delivering profit margin expansion through operating leverage, but also through cost-saving initiatives, which I mentioned earlier. So solid profit margin expansion on top of that sales growth delivered very solid earnings growth. And management actually increased its full-year fiscal 2016 guidance after its first quarter results back in September, and that prompted analysts to revise their estimates significantly higher, sending it to a Zacks Rank of 1, which is a strong buy rating. You can see here the price consensus and EPS surprise chart. Like I said, nice turnaround story here. You can see back in 2013, 2014, consensus estimates continually declined as their stock price just kind of flattened out. But when Starboard came in and started implementing some changes, you can see nice solid beats and then a huge increase in the stock price and nice increase in consensus estimates as well. And if you look at consensus estimates, analysts are expecting about 23% earnings growth in fiscal 2016 and about 14% growth next year. So a good double-digit growth story from this company.
I'm also looking at that dividend.
Yeah, in addition, they pay a very solid dividend that yields 3.5%. Company generates very strong free cash flow, and that's something that management is more incentivized to deliver on with that new board. So I'd expect that solid free cash flow to continue. They have a solid balance sheet as well. Hopefully some more dividend increases are on the way for this company as they grow earnings as well. And if you look, the valuation isn't cheap. They trade about 19 times forward earnings. So there is a lot of expectations now built into this turnaround story.
Yep.
But if you look at some of their peers, they're not that expensive. And also on a free cash flow yield basis, they're at greater than 10%, which is a very solid free cash flow yield. And if you look in the restaurant space, it's tough to find a company with very strong earnings momentum, that solid dividend yield, and at a reasonable price. And I think Darden delivers all of that. So it could be solid total return potential for this name over the next 6 to 12 months.
All right. Do you own it?
I do not.
All right. Check out more stock picks, stock picking strategies, stock commentary, and other stock stuff on our website, Zacks.com. Link to it all off the homepage with Todd. I'm Terry Ruffalo.